So I'm Sarah, and I run the Design Council, and I'm going to start with a little bit of history. Because you might think, this is all about the future, we're all looking about tech, AI, etc., etc. But sometimes it helps to look back. In 1944, these guys sitting around this table, Churchill was the Prime Minister, and the Second World War was about to end, but hadn't ended, and Churchill was worried, or the government was worried, that the rest of the world was going to sort of run away with itself and do industrial design and take all the orders and take all the trade, and we were going to get left behind as a little country all by ourselves. And it's sort of funny when you think about history. So they set up the Council for Industrial Design, that's what it was called. So what I always love about looking at this picture is they look quite, I was going to say they look old, that's ridiculous me saying that, but they probably aren't that old, but the way they're dressed and everything, quite conservative, small c, but yet they're looking into a future where things are going to change massively. So you see the sort of modernist curtain behind them. I think actually that picture's 1951, I think it's around the Festival of Britain. They didn't know what was going to happen. It was quite an uncertain future, but I like the fact that that's in our DNA, because that means that we're always sort of thinking, okay, so what is going to change? And we don't necessarily know, but not to be frightened by that. So Attlee's government then came in 1945, Labour government, and took the Design Council forward. So that's sort of where it all started, and I particularly like the fact they're, of course, sitting, well, not like it, but they're smoking pipes and cigarettes and everything else. It's sort of quite interesting. So the history of it is there were two strands to this. There was a Royal Fine Art Commission set up in 1924. Then there was 1944, the Council for Industrial Design. 1970, the Design Council became a charity. 1999, Richard Rogers brought in the Commission for Architecture and the Built Environment. Then it became an independent charity in 2011, and then there's me. So there's one feature about this, it's quite male. So I'm the first woman to have run the Design Council, and it's something, interestingly, that we're still thinking about for the future. Because the design economy is still quite male. It's 78% men compared to 53% across the whole working economy. The one that is the most mixed is digital design, which is at 19%. Sorry, that big one. That's in terms of Black, Asian, minority, ethnic, 19% of digital designers are not white, but only 4% of graphic designers are not white, and only 6% of architects are not white. As far as I know, more than 6% of people living in houses are not white. So what do? We now do, our purpose is really simple, making life better by design. And that's in four main ways. I'm going to talk about one of them today. So the first is better performance. That can be lots of things, from working with local authorities to design things better, help them with challenges that they're facing. Better products is Spark, which is the one I'm going to talk about. Better processes is anything from how do you design the coding for AI, to how do you design a contract, to how do you design a pixel, and then better places is where we live. How do we design housing that has also thinking about housing in terms of infrastructure and jobs, not just the house. And so we're a charity, we're independent, so we're an impartial champion, if you like, and we often are asked to take on jobs because we have that impartiality. We work with lots of other people, so we facilitate partnerships, and we amplify issues about design all the time. And there are three things that we focus on. Because we're a charity, we're committed to improving people's lives, we make sure we do it really well, and we work with others. And we do that in two ways. We do national research, which is value for the whole country, and then from that we get lots of insights, and from those insights we develop programs and projects. And one of those that I'm going to talk about today is Spark. So we're here today thinking about digital, but in fact Spark is quite unusual because it is a program that starts with a product. So tech is involved quite a lot, but it actually starts with product, because there are lots and lots of innovation funds that start with tech. There aren't that many that start with the product. And this is funded, so all of our programs are funded independently. We get about just under 50% of our funding from a government department called BASE, and then the rest we fund through different partners. And Spark is funded by an individual who wants to remain anonymous, and Arthritis Research UK. So Arthritis Research UK want to be a part of this programme, particularly because they're thinking about things that will make life better for people with arthritis, so if you have reduced hand mobility and that type of thing. But of course, if you're designing products which are good for people who are living with arthritis, they're often good for people living with other issues as well. And the range of products that people come to us with are these that you see here. So health and well-being, energy in the environment, home life, on the move, sport and leisure, and something remarkable. And one of the main things about Spark is that lots of people are not designers. People that come onto this programme are not designers. And I think that's what makes it really different, because you can come onto the programme as a non-designer, and then you get a package of support about design, you get some money, you get details about how to make sure your IP is in place, you get help with your branding and your marketing, you get help with storytelling, and all of that package of support is part of the programme. In fact, annoyingly, about 10 minutes before we started, the latest round of Spark finalists has just gone up, and it's so classic, isn't it? I didn't bring my iPad today. If I had it, I could have quickly zipped that onto the screen, but I can't quite do it by my phone. But so there we go. I can't show you this year's finalists, but if you look on the Design Council website, you'll see them all up there. And the way that the programme works is that we have just 13 finalists, so it's not huge, and that means it's quite an intense programme. You can always tell when it's a Spark day in the office, because you see people by the end of the day looking a bit sort of like this. But they all get to know each other, and because it's only 13, it's quite a tight programme, and we deliberately keep it at that size, because I think if you start to go any bigger, it dilutes the effect a bit. But the key is people come to us, and they're very often in the middle of those two diamonds. So they come in and they go, right, I've got my idea, I know what I'm going to do with it, I just want you to get it to market really fast. So they don't want to go back into the first diamond, which is just to check, and some are actually quite resistant to that, like, no, I just want to go from A to Z quickly. But we encourage them to go back into that first diamond, to do a bit of discovery, just to double check, and very often, mostly I would say, something rather different comes out through doing that. And that means that they can define the opportunity a bit differently, you can write the brief a bit differently, and it means that where they end up at the end is also somewhere different. Because this is about taking ideas to market, and I'll show you some of them in a minute. We've got things, one, which should be in the market with 3 months from now, and that's only about a year, so it's pretty quick. So this is how it works. You have the idea, which is the light bulb at the beginning, and then everybody pitches their ideas in. It's very competitive. It's quite tough to get through, to get to the final 13. Then we shortlist and we select, and that's a really tough day. I mean, they're great days, but there's always people who have got a great idea who don't quite make the cut. It doesn't mean the idea isn't good, but we pick people where we think we've got the most chance of actually, they're really going to get something out of it, and the product is going to be something which will make people's lives much better. Then we write the contract, and this is also helpful for the participants because they then understand about contract writing. And then the process starts. So that's the 16 weeks that they're taken through, and they come into our office and they work very intensively with a range of design experts that we have. So we work with about 500 people around the country who are designers in very different ways. So product design, industrial design, all sorts of different types of design that's relevant to the particular product. So each person has a bit of one-to-one mentoring, and they'll probably be with different design associates. It depends what fits best for them. Then we help them the design associates help them do their final pitch. And then once they do the pitch, then the ones that go through get an award. So they get 15 grand when they come in, and then they have an opportunity on the pitch day to pitch for up to a bit of up to £200,000 to get some extra money. So what's happened so far? We don't take equity, which is what lots of other funds do now. As I mentioned, we're an independent charity. So what happens is that when your product gets into market and you start to make money, in the contract is built in that 5% of that, whatever you make, comes back into the Spark Fund to help fund other Sparks. So it doesn't come to us, Design Council, it goes into the Spark Fund and it helps more people get onto the programme. We help them find marketplaces to scale up their ideas, because as you know, often you can have a fantastic idea and it can be very, very tiny. But how do you get it bigger? How do you find that route into the marketplace? That's the thing that people often really need help with. This is Spark 5, so we know how to do it and we know what works and we can really help people. And we've learned every single year from the people that actually come onto Spark. We've supported 100 innovators and entrepreneurs, and out of that 31 products have been developed. So not everybody's product works and not everybody's product gets to market, that's life. But also the ones that maybe don't work. Somebody came to see us the other day actually, and they were on the first year, and it didn't quite work, but they rethought, you know how you do, and I suspect something will come out of that in a year or so's time. So even though the product hasn't got to market yet, the idea hasn't gone away. And also we leverage in other funding, so we have a partnership with Crowdfunder, and they come in and they also talk to people and help them and show them how to do crowdfunding as well as they possibly can. So let's have a look at some of the people. And I'm actually going to start with the newest one. This is an interesting one. So these two guys, they're scientists, and they met at Imperial. And they were working on how to take urea out of straw to make MDF. So that how to actually take that liquid out. And while doing that, they were using a green glue. And they realised that that green glue, when mixed with ground coffee, provided a surface which was entirely, completely strong and bonded together, and they could make a coffee cup out of it. So it's already recycled. What they couldn't do, and I remember talking to them at the launch, is that they're really brilliant, incredibly intense. This product was peer-reviewed to death. It wasn't really about the money for them. They'd been on other things like this, and they've got money. They didn't know how to design. He said to me, the coffee cup that we designed, I have to keep in a cupboard, it looks so awful. They started their life as scientists. So we help them really with the design and also with the PR. This is being prototyped at the moment in China, because there's all this stuff at the moment about coffee cups. They've already talked to some of the big, the big brands, the big Starbucks, etc. And that should be ready within a few months. Now that's really, really quick. That's probably one of the quickest products that we've had getting to market. This one here, Meiku, was 2015, which again, it's not very long ago, and I'm sure that some of you read John Mader's Design and Tech reports. It's just, the latest one's just come out, and funnily enough, he's using Meiku as one of his case studies. And so it makes a 3D mould in just a couple of minutes, so you can put your object on the platform, it makes a mould from it, and then you can use that to make different things. And you can see the amount of launch orders they've got, but this is what's interesting, I think. So they went through quite a lot of iterations to get to the right place. And the reason that John Meiku is talking about them is because a lot of their orders are in the US. But it's that whole process. They knew what they wanted to do. They wanted something where you could make a form really quickly at home without having to use any other software, without having to use digital model manipulation, anything. Very, very simple. Quite low tech, you could say. They designed it, wasn't quite right, refined it, redesigned it, the process that you need to go through. And eventually they got there, and there it is, $599. So that one is going brilliantly well. The next one is something a bit different. So this was 2016, and this is if any of you either have diabetes or know someone that has diabetes and you need to inject yourself, and that's not a fantastically pleasant thing to do. So what this does is TickleFlex, is it sort of tickles up your skin so that when you put the needle in, it's brought the skin just above the surface so that it's much less painful when it goes in. That's in the shops already, and It's being shipped, it's in Australia and the US already. And then this one here is Rocket. It was 3 guys who were very sleep deprived because they all had babies. And for those of you that have children, you know, there's that endless rocking them either in your arms or in their pushchair, rock, 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 rock. And they came up with this idea that surely there's an easier way to do this. So what this does is you attach it to your pram or whatever wherever the baby is, and it just rocks. Rock, 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 rock. Really simple. When they came to Spark, it's not very easy to see actually because the photos are quite small, but this product had about 85 bits to it. So it's very, very complicated. And actually what the process did was it unravelled and unravelled and unravelled and unravelled and took it down, 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 down. There's now about 3 bits. So it's now really simple. And that is in the shops. Anyone want to take a guess at how much that might sell for? Retail for? So it's in Mothercare, Amazon. Go on, anybody?
60 quid.
60 quid?
19.
19. So it's somewhere in the middle of those two. It's 37.50. 37.50. And it's going very, very well. The next one is Ding. So this is a doorbell where you can answer your phone from anywhere. So particularly if you like Airbnb and that type of thing, you can see who's there and you can decide whether you want to let them in. Really simple. And they raised a lot of money from crowdfunding. So that's now, they progressed, they then went through the John Lewis Lab, J-Lab, and that's going to be on the shelves in John Lewis any minute now. And then lastly, this is one that is particular to Arthritis Research UK. So this is an example of something where it might help people with arthritis, but actually it helps other people as well. So this guy, again, is not a designer. His father was living with arthritis and he was beginning to lose his independence of getting in and out of the house because he couldn't turn the key in the door. You know, keys are actually quite small and quite fiddly to turn, and he had his shed, which he wanted to go into, and he couldn't. So he just put this really simple extra bit of leverage onto the key, work key, and you can turn it now quite fast. That is in production. So this one's very quick as well actually, because this was 2017 and it's already in production, and he got an award of 40 grand. So, but you can imagine with that it's not just people with arthritis. There's all sorts of other people for whom this might be a great product. So I will end by saying thank you, but also if any of you are sitting here and have a great idea or know someone that's got a great idea, don't be shy, come forward with it. Just look on the Design Council website. All the details about Spark are there. The next Spark will start in the late summer, and we look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much.